Open up. No, I'm kidding. Did you hear my knee crack? I love her. Hi there, welcome back. I'm Melissa. Today's video is all about Monstera Aurea. She's my favorite plant and I cannot wait to talk about her and share her story with you guys. This is a new series I started at the beginning of the year where I feature a plant each month in my collection and I talk about its journey that it's been on with me, my care, and everything about this plant. This is probably my favorite plant that I own. This in Monstera albo. Monstera is my favorite plant genus. Alocasia is a close second. I am going to do a plant feature dedicated to my Monstera albo, so stay tuned. I'll probably do that one in a couple more months. Monstera albo was like my first expensive plant purchase, and Monstera aurea, since I fell in love with monsteras, I dreamed of having this plant. So I've had this plant 2.5 years, a little over. So yeah, September will make 3 years since I've had her. And I got her as a top cutting. And she has been my most expensive plant purchase. But back then, plant prices were crazy. Like, you can buy Monstera aurea now for like $100. Like a fully rooted plant that's actively growing. I got her as a top cutting in 21 for a whopping price of $700. For me to spend that amount of money on a plant, I don't know if I would do that nowadays. I think $300 to $400 is probably the most I would spend, and I would absolutely have to have that plant in my collection if I were to spend that today. But she came at a time that I absolutely needed her. I was working at the hospital and I was just so burnt out, so stressed with the pandemic and everything, and I just really wanted this plant so bad, and I actually found the seller on Facebook. I'm not active on Facebook anymore, so if you see people posting as me on Facebook, they're scammers. This is actually the same seller that I got my albos from, believe it or not. I don't think this person is actually selling anymore. I'm not active on Facebook or anything, and I don't even know if I can find their account on there. They have really good genetics, so I feel like I got really lucky in the sense that my aurea came from that person. Several of you know my aurea took a big hit last year, and I'll get to that. I basically had to restart her and regrow her, so she probably would have been twice the size if that hadn't have happened, but that's okay. She's happy and she's growing now, and I'm obsessed with her. So as a top cutting in 21, I had experience with rooting plants and top cuttings. Like, I felt comfortable enough to spend that amount of money that I could grow her and she wouldn't die on me. There's always that chance, but I got Monstera alba before and I felt comfortable enough in my plant journey that I was willing to spend the money and take a chance because I really wanted her. I had to bring you down a little bit further because I'm on the floor and that was hurting my knees. The joys of getting old. So yes, once she was actually rooted enough, I think it was November, that I felt comfortable enough with her root system to go ahead and pot her up. And then I feel like a couple months later in January is when I have the photo where she popped out her first new leaf. That first little leaf that she gave me was so adorable. So that was January, and I ended up putting her on that plastic pole when I potted her up. That was back when I was using that mesh, and I don't use that anymore. I didn't know what I was doing. And so later on we moved here. So that same summer of 22, she put out another leaf, and it made me so excited to see her happy and growing. And that leaf got a little bit bigger. And I think the ones after that started coming in with like bright, vibrant color, which was so beautiful on this plant. It was like fall, September, October, and I think she grew like 5 or 6 leaves. Like, I honestly was shocked at how quickly she was growing, being like a top cutting and then transitioning from one environment to another environment. And I think just overall being in this room really prompted her to grow like crazy. And I had switched to using like a slow release fertilizer, and she was getting a ton of good light by this window. She was doing so well and everything, and then I decided to upsize her. I repotted her into a mix that I thought I really liked. Yeah, I later discovered that that mix was staying way too dense for my environment, with it being like really warm in this room, 80 degrees over summer, and she getting a lot of light and everything. Yeah, it just wasn't drying out. So you could actually see in the photo, those bottom leaves were curling, and I didn't realize until a few months later that she was actually starting to rot. And when I discovered she had root rot, I was so sad. I actually have a whole video on it and kind of what I discovered, and I take you on that process of propagating her. Yes, I propagated the entire thing. I ended up chopping, I had a big, huge top section, which is this now bottom part. I had 4 leaves, this one, this one, this one over here, and this one that's hiding. That was like my top section, and then every other cutting I chopped and I sold. Several of you guys that purchased her cuttings have reached out and said that your cuttings are growing and doing so well, and I'm so happy I could share her with other people. I wish I would have kept one cutting though. I ended up having, I don't know how many cuttings I had, maybe like 5 or 6 or so, and then I had a few wet stick nodes that ended up sprouting that I let go. But yeah, I wish I would have kept one more cutting of her, but that's okay. So that big top section had the most insane root system ever. And I ended up, I think, chopping one more node away after that no, I didn't. Yes, I did. I think I did. Did I? I don't remember now, but I planted. So once it had a huge root system, I planted it into what you see here. And so that top section took to this mix, and then it's been slowly like growing back ever since. I think the newest leaf after I potted it up was, I think this one over here. And then it grew in some nice ones with some good color here. And then she continued to size up. Like, this leaf is beautiful, and you can't even see the top of her. She's got like 2 more leaves. This one over here was absolutely beautiful, and this one here, and this is the newest one over here. It's actually still pretty new, so the variegation is still hardening a bit. The thing with Monstera Aurea variegation is it takes like several weeks to fully show up. So it may not look vibrant right now, but eventually it'll kind of fade into this beautiful yellow variegation. And I can tell this one has some nice yellow. So it's more of a lime green right now, but it will fade and turn more yellow. Especially in higher light, I've noticed it can come out a bit more. I have heard Aureas can be very prone to browning on the yellow, which the only time mine got yellow, and you can see on this leaf here, was when she had the root rot. This is the only one that brown. Did I say yellowed? And kind of once she stabilized and regrew, I think all the browning stopped. I think there was a little bit on one of these older leaves too, but she's pretty much maintained the rest of her growth without any browning. And so I kind of contribute browning to, you just have to find that balance of good light and a watering routine. And I would not pot up so extremely large. I feel like she just really likes this consistency in the spot that I have her in. I have her sitting on that shelf, that top shelf behind me. That's a south window, so she gets a lot of good light during the day when it's out. And I feel like she's really appreciated that. And I've gotten this huge, beautiful plant to grow back, and I love her so incredibly much. And I decided to go with just a core pole because I just find Monstera deliciosa, they don't really need a moss pole, like one that you have to actually keep moist, because they grow these long aerial roots regardless. She has so many long ones. I love the look of them. I love the aerial roots. Like, she has 3 long ones right here. And she has all these other ones. So what I found is that these aerial roots literally grow straight through and out a damp sphagnum moss pole. Yeah, they can grow roots inside of moss and it helps them climb, but I feel like any kind of support would be beneficial. You don't have to do a damp moss pole. She does have some roots kind of anchored into here. It has like a little plastic, or not plastic, like a little mesh, and she does have some roots growing inside of it, but I don't keep this moist. This is just a core pole, and I just stack them, and I kind of have her tied against it, and she's kind of used this to just kind of anchor on. She's still gonna size up. Like I have so many big poles, obviously, that you can see behind me, and I didn't really feel like that was necessary for this plant because having a lot of poles is a lot of work, and if I can do one less pole that I have to keep moist, I will. And yeah, she's doing just fine. So I really don't recommend a moss pole that you have to keep moist for these guys. As long as you have some kind of support and, you know, good light, and make sure you're feeding very well too. The mix I have her in is an aeroid mix. It's soil free. It's actually the older version before my new version. I have a new version of my aeroid mix that's kind of the same, but I switched a few things. This is mostly bark. It's very aerated. It's mostly bark, pumice or perlite, and I think I have cocoa husk, vermiculite, charcoal. I didn't add tree fern in this one, but my new mix I used tree fern. Now I had to use a black pot because I didn't have one at that time big enough, like a clear one, but I would prefer a clear pot just to monitor the root system. But I am very careful with watering with her. Kind of how I can tell she needs water is if she's looking a little like droopy here. I wait until I notice a slight like droop, and then I water her very thoroughly and let her drain. I didn't want this to stay so moist and risk root rot again. I water her, I don't even say I water her once a week at all. It really depends. This mix is so chunky that I can't really tell when it dries per se, so that's why I look at the leaves and go off the leaves. Oh my gosh, I was panicking. I thought that was a scale bug, but it's just the hardening on the stem, like the brown stuff it does when it starts to like mature. I was about to freak out. Like, I haven't had scale in so long. It's not. Oh gosh. But yeah, I water her with my nutrient regimen, maybe every 10 days or so, if that. And then I use silica in that nutrient regimen. I will say silica, I feel like, has made my plants overall more resilient. I can't say for sure that it's helped too much with browning, because I feel like variegated plants with less green obviously are at risk for browning, just in general with being a variegated plant. But it has a lot to do, again, with your watering habits, the consistency down here, and light. I don't want to chop her again for a very long time. Like, I don't probably ever want to chop her again. I know I probably will at some point because she's going to outgrow my space, but I don't want to for a very long time. I recently got a new Monstera Aurea. It was like a top rooted plant, and that is growing, and I'm going to grow that one alongside this one to eventually prop that one, but it won't be for some time because I want that one to grow. So I do have a second Aurea in my collection. Now this one did have browning, but I attributed that to it adjusting to my environment, because this leaf, and this leaf was an old leaf before it was shipped to me, and this is the new one in my care, and the new one is pristine. So I have it next to this one, so it's getting the same conditions, same care and everything, and I have it in the original mix. The root system is healthy. I did check it. And so, yeah, I feel like hopefully this doesn't continue on the new growth, but I am very intrigued in a sense to see if it's something genetic wise with the particular plants, if one is more prone to browning than another one. So I am very, very curious to see what this one is going to do when it grows out compared to the genetics of this one. This one has a really good color, like really, really good genetics. So I'm very excited to have both of these. Pest-wise, she has gotten thrips when I had them in 22. I was able to get rid of them. I had them all over my plant room in here. It took 2 months to get rid of the thrips infestation, but they did love my Monstera Aurea and my Thai constellations and my albos. I had them on all. I was just looking at her leaves. I need to clean them. Some of these older ones are a little bit a little bit dusty. I also had some old beneficial mites on her, so I have like little white specks. I actually just took the little baggie off before filming. So that is the story of my Monstera Aurea. And yeah, she'll be coming up on 3 years old here. I wish I could have like grown her from before I had to chop her and start over. I would have loved to have seen what she looked like today. But in a sense, I'm glad that I caught it when I did and I was able to salvage her and restart her, because yeah, now she's gonna grow a lot happier and healthier, and I cannot wait to see her and what she's gonna look like. So thank you so much for watching my story with Monstera Aurea and my journey with her. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions with Monstera Aurea or anything that you want to chat about, let me know down in the comments. I'll be sure to link my previous videos in the description on her that I've done, and then I can link the core pole that I use down there and my soil mix, airwide mix. Yeah, I talked about my nutrient regimen in my pond video, so if you haven't seen that, I can link that because I use that nutrient regimen on all my plants now. And yeah, thank you so much for watching and being here, and I'll talk to you again soon.